Welcome to Learn English Through Stories, where every story teaches and every word matters. Learn English. Live the story. Let's begin.
My father was never good with directions. He once got lost on the way to the same grocery store we'd been going to for years. My mother used to laugh and say, "You'd lose your head if it wasn't attached." He'd just grin and shrug, like it was no big deal. But after everything happened, after the soldiers came, after the streets were no longer ours, after we had to leave with nothing but a single suitcase, he drew a map, not with GPS, not with borders, not even with real distances, just a piece of paper, faded, folded 4 times. He handed it to me like it was treasure. "This," he said, tapping the middle, "is our house." Or, it was. His finger traced lines that weren't really roads, just lines. "Here's where you learn to ride your bike, and this," he tapped a small circle, "this was the apricot tree your grandfather planted." I was only 10, but I held that paper like it was life itself. "Why'd you draw this?" I asked. He looked at me and said, "So you don't lose your way, even when you're not home." I didn't understand it then. I just thought it was one of his stories, like the ones he made up during blackouts to help me fall asleep. But now I know. That map wasn't for my feet. It was for my heart. We left the next morning. Everything we owned fit into one rolling bag and my school backpack. I remember how quiet the taxi was. My mother stared out the window like the buildings were already ghosts. I clenched the map in my hands the whole ride. Folded, refolded, over and over. As if doing that could somehow bring the streets back. I didn't cry. Not then. I thought if I could just keep a stiff upper lip, maybe it wouldn't hurt so much. But I was wrong. The new country was cold. Not just in weather, in color, in silence, in everything. The buildings were gray, the people hurried, and the streets had names I couldn't pronounce. I clutched the map in my jacket pocket like a secret. No one here knew where I came from. No one asked. At school, I was the girl from over there. The girl who didn't talk much, didn't get the jokes, and always packed food that smelled weird. I tried to blend in. I really did. But when you've been thrown in at the deep end, you either sink or swim, and I was barely keeping my head above water. At night, I'd open the map under my blanket, using a flashlight I kept hidden from the dorm supervisor. I'd trace the little house, the tree, the imaginary river my father had drawn near the park. None of it helped me fall asleep. But it reminded me I had roots somewhere, even if I couldn't see them. One day, I showed it to a girl named Alina. She was the only person who sat next to me during lunch, without making it awkward. She looked at the map for a long time. "Your dad drew this?" "From memory," I said. "We had to leave too fast to bring anything else." She nodded slowly. "That's kind of beautiful. Sad, but beautiful." Then she smiled. "You know what this reminds me of?" she said. "When my grandmother came here, she didn't know English, didn't know the trains, didn't know anything, but she made it work." "How?" I asked. Alina grinned. "She messed up a lot, got lost, missed stops, but she always said, 'Where there's a will, there's a way.'" I tucked the map back into my pocket and smiled for the first time in weeks. That night, I drew something for the first time. A new line, a new path, from the old house to where I was now. It wasn't perfect. The lines were crooked. But maybe that was okay. Maybe healing isn't about erasing the past, but drawing something beside it. It was winter when my father lost his job. We'd been in the new country for a year by then, and things had started to feel almost normal, until that phone call. He didn't talk much after that. He'd sit by the window in the evenings, staring out like he was waiting for something to return. A sound, a smell, a home. One night, I found him holding the map. His fingers ran along the paper, slowly, like it might change if he touched it gently enough. He didn't see me. I just watched. A few days later, we argued. It was over something small, a form I forgot to sign for school. But somehow, it turned into everything else. "This is the only life we have now," I said. "Why can't you just stop looking backward?" He didn't yell. He never did. He just looked at me and said, "I'm not looking back." I'm remembering where we began. I didn't reply. But inside, something cracked. That night, I sat on my bed and stared at the map. And for the first time, it made me angry. "What good are made-up lines?" I whispered. "They can't help me fit in. They can't get you a job. They can't even get us home." I wanted to tear it to shreds, but I couldn't. So I folded it, stuffed it back in my drawer, and told myself I was done with it, done with fairy tales drawn in ink and memory. I decided that from now on, I'd live in the real world. No maps, no stories, just facts, just what's in front of me. I thought that would help, but ignoring the past doesn't erase it. It just makes the present feel heavier. Over the next few weeks, I started snapping at my mother, skipping assignments, staying late at school for no reason. People said I seemed fine, but the truth was, I was coming apart at the seams. It was the day of the Heritage Project. Each student had to share something from their culture: a dish, a story, a dance, something that said, "This is who I am." I had nothing. Everything I'd once held close was buried under school schedules, bus routes, and trying not to be noticed. I didn't even know which way was up anymore. Then I opened my drawer and saw the map. Still folded, still faded. But somehow, it looked different now. Less like a memory, more like a message. I brought it to school. When it was my turn, I didn't say much. I just stood there, unfolded the paper, and said, "My father drew this from memory. It doesn't have real roads, but it shows where we come from and why we left." A long pause. Then I added, "Some people bring food or flags. I brought a map with no compass, no key, and no borders, but it led me here." When I sat down, the room was quiet. Then Alina whispered, "That was amazing." Later that day, she passed me a note. It read, "I showed my grandma your map. She said it reminded her of her village, before the war." I felt something in my chest shift. Not pain, not sadness, something warmer. That night, I walked home past the bus stop where my father used to wait for me. He wasn't there, not anymore. He'd passed away last spring, after a long, quiet illness that took us all by surprise. I remember holding the map at his hospital bed, tracing it with his hand one last time. "This is still yours," he'd whispered. "Even if the place is gone, your story isn't." Back then, I didn't know what he meant. Now I do. Sometimes maps don't lead you to places. They lead you back to yourself. A year later, I moved into my first apartment. Small, bare walls. No curtains yet, but it was mine. I unpacked slowly. Clothes, books, a single teacup that had somehow survived 2 countries. And then, I found the map. The paper was softer now, worn from time, creased in the same places, smudged from my father's fingerprints. I held it for a long time. Not because I needed directions, I knew the city by heart now, but because it reminded me that home isn't a place. I pinned it to my wall, not in the kitchen, not in a drawer, right above my desk, where I'd see it every morning. A reminder of a man who didn't know how to follow a map, but gave me one that helped me find who I am. And for that, I will never fold it away again.
Key idioms you learned. Lose your way, feel lost emotionally or forget who you are. Keep a stiff upper lip, stay strong and hide your emotions. Thrown in at the deep end, put in a difficult situation without preparation. Where there's a will, there's a way, determination can overcome obstacles. Tear something to shreds, destroy something completely, often out of frustration. Come apart at the seams, emotionally fall apart or lose control. Not know which way is up, feel confused, overwhelmed. Take someone by surprise, happen suddenly when not expected. Stay in your shell, remain closed off or introverted. Carry the world on your shoulders, feel overwhelmed or overly responsible. Useful expressions and phrases. A map with no compass, no key. Metaphor for memory and emotional orientation. This is the only life we have now. Facing reality, frustration. They didn't ask. Expressing invisibility or emotional silence. Maybe healing isn't about erasing. Reflective language about recovery. Thanks for watching this episode from Learn English Through Stories. If you learned a new expression or idiom today, give this video a like. Leave a comment to share your favorite part or what you'd like to learn next. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new story. See you in the next one.